Hello, Booktube. On Saturday, the Booktube prizes were announced. I was a judge for all rounds for the nonfiction side of the prize, and this is my reaction video to the medalists and some final thoughts on judging the prize and thoughts for next year. I'm hoping to be a judge again next year. So, to recap, the medalists for the nonfiction side of the Booktube Prize are, for the bronze or in the bronze position, we have No Visible Bruises by Rachel Louise Snyder, and I'm okay with it being bronze medal. Pleasantly surprised, I guess. I'll touch on some thoughts when I get to my where I personally placed this final round. After I touch on the recap the medalists. So in the silver position, Say Nothing by Patrick Radden Keefe, which I am very pleasantly surprised to see medal. And in the first place, the gold medalist, Know My Name by Chanel Miller, which I expected to win, although ambivalent that it won. So my rankings. So in sixth place, I had In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. I did not like this book at all. I thought it is incredibly uneven. Machado is, I think, trying to do too much, and it sort of bogs down the narrative. And while I think how she tells the story, the Dream House is interesting, I don't think it really worked. Number 5, I had Know My Name by Chanel Miller. There are points in the book that are incredibly moving and powerful, especially when Miller is rightly pissed off. But then there are parts where the narrative drags, and I think Know My Name would have been a stronger book had it had some editing, or a bit more sort of editing, I guess is the right word for it. Now, as a caveat, I did listen, these two books I listened to on audiobook, and I do not like audiobook at all. They just do not work for me. So how much of this ranking is me just not liking the audiobook versus weaknesses in the book itself, I don't know. So my fourth book, the book in fourth place, No Visible Bruises by Rachel Louise Snyder, which I loved. It really sort of woke me up to the problem of domestic violence and how much of a issue it is. At the same time, I do have some serious critical issues with the book that I talked about in my round 2 wrap-up. Snyder, she basically constructs a gendered binary, male abuser, female victim. And while she acknowledges that this binary is not the only formulation, that's what she's going to focus on. And she, in the introduction, minimizes the other forms of this binary. But then in the final chapter, she points out that the numbers are, I think, between 10 to 15% or higher, given that a lot of these cases are underreported, probably grossly underreported. And that raised critical issues for me. Is this intentional? This sort of minimizing of other permutations of this binary, or is it unintentional? I mean, of course, whether it's intentional or unintentional raises, different questions. But then also, there are two scenes in the book. One where she's chaperoning young, or I don't exactly know why she's there, to be honest with you. But she's with a group of, like a school group, who went to go see Arthurian play. I'm thinking it was Monty Python. And they were talking about Arthur's reaction to Guinevere's affair with Lancelot. And how the boys seem to be supporting Arthur's reaction. And Snyder seems to be wondering about these boys, about what they're going to be like in the future, and it concerned me. And then there's another scene where she's walking down the street and she passes by a man, and again she kind of wonders about him, and I'm like, I'm not entirely sure about those scenes and whether or not those scenes could potentially sort of detract from her overall argument, which is very good. So I don't know what to make of that. And that's kind of why it's, for me, No Visible Bruises didn't make the first round, first place when I judged it in the second round, nor in this round. So my number 3 is Catch and Kill by Ronan Farrow, which I really loved. It is an amazing book. Reads like a thriller. Very powerful, very moving and infuriating. But the writing's just, a bit too workmanlike, a bit too sort of, it doesn't have that extra kick, I think, that would propel it to winning. So number 2 is Solitary by Albert Woodfox, this is an amazing book, and moving and powerful and infuriating, and just, I am honestly shocked it did not medal. Shocked. So my number 1 is Say Nothing by Patrick Radden Keefe, which is an amazing mix of history and true crime and narrative nonfiction, looking at the troubles in Northern Ireland, particularly the unsolved murder of Jean McConville, who was a Belfast housewife who mysteriously vanished in 1970. I think it was 1970. And sort of building up Keefe's investigations, and eventually sort of building a case as to who he thinks was the person who pulled the trigger and murdered Jean McConville. It is an amazing book. So I am pleased it won the silver, if not the gold. So on the whole, I think I have some mixed emotions about the Booktube Prize and judging for the Booktube Prize. A lot of the books that I thought would go on, that I thought were really good, didn't. Obviously, Me by Elton John, Underlanded by Robert McFarlane, which how it did in the semifinals really disappoints me and shocks me. I thought that book is by far one of the best books I've read this year. And I'm surprised it came in last place in the semifinals. That boggles my mind. But so there's a bit of disappointment that the books I enjoyed more, that I thought were better written, didn't do as well. It's a bit disappointing, but at the same time, I enjoyed being a judge. It was a lot of fun. Exhausting, yes. It was exhausting, particularly given COVID-19 and the fact that finding these books became increasingly difficult, particularly as I had originally wanted to only use my library to read. And if I had absolutely no choice, physically buy them, and I did buy about 5 of them, although, well, one of them I bought because I really, really loved it, but I bought 5 of the books I judged. But, so, there was that. But on the whole, I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to being a judge next year. And while my favorites didn't necessarily make it, it did key me onto a lot of books that I never would have read in the first place. Prime example being Sea People by Christina Thompson. I was contemplating checking the book out, I think around this time last year, about when it first came out. And admittedly, I was hoping it would be about the Phoenicians. I want to read a history of the Phoenicians, but that's beside the point. But so when I had it, I set it aside. But reading it for the Booktube prize, I'm like, what the heck was I thinking? This book is amazing. Just absolutely amazing. I love it. Also, memoir. I never would have, while In the Dream House and Know My Name might not necessarily have worked for me. Excuse me. The Yellow House by Sarah M. Broom definitely amazed me. So that's a whole new genre of nonfiction that's opened up to me that I never thought I would have liked. Also introduced me to new writers like Sarah M. Broom and Robert McFarlane, and of course new genres. So on the whole, my experience with the Booktube Prize has been incredibly positive and opened up a whole new realms of genres for me to read. So I am definitely looking forward to what's coming next year. So yeah, I think so. It's a exhausting mixed bag with, I think, a very hopeful, positive ending. So that's what I have for today. So tomorrow I'll have weekly reads. Hopefully I will finish the book I'm reading by then. Tomorrow is going to be a bit of a trying day. So expect maybe a bit of a rant depending how that goes. Because already, there's enough material for a rant. But anyway, so I'm going to sign off for now. I'm starting to ramble Booktube. Thank you. Have a great afternoon. Stay safe. And if you're American, please register to vote and vote.